What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Roundup here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content I put out every single week. Going to keep this nice and short. U.S. men's national team 6-0 win over Trinidad and Tobago to round out the group stage of the Gold Cup. Jesus Ferreira, first half hat trick. Then you get the other goals pouring in. Cade Cowell, Gianluca Busio get their first goals with the U.S. men's national team at the senior level. Brandon Vasquez adds a sixth late on. The U.S. does what it needs to do. First place in the group stage over with. Mission accomplished, professional performance. I said from the very beginning in this very video last week after the Jamaica game, there just isn't anything you're going to learn about this team in these next two games. Jamaica was your one test in the group stage, and now you got to wait till you get to the knockout rounds. So it would have had to be a disastrous result for there to be something to take away from this. But give the team credit, did exactly what they were supposed to do, took care of business in those final two games, made it look easy, took professional performance, all that good stuff. The two things I want to hit on real quick. As I mentioned, Jesus Ferreira, another hat trick, had it done by halftime. Yes, he's continuing to pile all of these goals up against Caribbean nations in games that the U.S. dominates and should dominate. Did not look good at the World Cup. But you do have to give Jesus Ferreira credit for this. At least he's scoring these goals. Because in that last World Cup cycle, there were a lot of other players who got opportunities. And by and large, he took his. That's why he ended up as the kind of the number 9 heading into the World Cup. Is because, while he's not an orthodox number 9, there are certainly holes to poke at, questions to be asked if he's good enough to be the guy. When he gets these kind of opportunities to really express himself and to control a game and to put all of his technical ability on display, he does. How that translates when you're talking about a Copa America and a World Cup, different conversation. But you see how good of a finisher he is when he is in form with games like this. The first touch, the quickness of his feet, the way he just puts the ball in the back of the net and does it again and does it again. If it was that easy, there would be a lot of other strikers in this pool doing it against Grenada, St. Kitts, whoever. This game doesn't matter. He is the one guy who, when you have games that the U.S. should dominate, consistently shows up and gives you 2-3 goals in a really good performance, exactly like he's supposed to. That counts for something. Now, it's a different situation with Florin Balogun now into the fold. When you're talking about number 9s, I'm not here to say that Jesus Ferreira should be a top 2 or maybe even 3 option on the depth chart. That is still very much up for debate. I'm willing to have that discussion. But he is just pouring in hat tricks at this point. Got to give him the credit he deserves for that. He is a really good player. I am so tired of the anti-MLS narrative. As a soccer community, we need to be more nuanced. Speaking of MLS and the anti-MLS narrative, the other guy I want to highlight once again is Jordy Mihailovic. Had some really good moments in this game, drew the penalty that Ferreira converted to finish off the hat trick. He's a guy that if you don't pay attention to MLS, you don't hear very much about because he was playing, Chicago and then Montreal. But he had a phenomenal season in Montreal until he got hurt. And he wasn't a Greg Berhalter guy. And so he was nowhere near making that World Cup team. Then he gets his move to the Eredivisie. Hasn't gone great. But you saw again in this game what this guy can do. I will continue to go to bat for him. That is a position that outside of Gio Reyna, there is no depth at. You don't have these number 10s who can pull the strings. Now, if Lucho Acosta becomes a member of the U.S. men's national team, okay, we're on to something that changes how I feel a little bit. But until that player, somebody else presents themselves outside of Gio Reyna, I want a second guy that can come off the bench and do that. And to me, the best option available that I've seen is Jordan Mihailovic, and he showed you why in this game. And then also just from a confidence standpoint for a guy like Gianluca Buzio, coming off of a rough season in Serie B, not ending exactly the way he wanted to in terms of playing time, to get into this team, to get a couple starts in the group stage, to get his goal. Really good to see that as well. Again, he's still, right? Young guy, still trying to kind of figure it out, get his footing in Europe. But the technical ability, there's never been any doubt about that. And so you have a lot of guys like Busio on this Gold Cup team that are trying to sort of, and Mihailovic falls in this category too, trying to bounce back from disappointing club seasons and kind of get some positive vibes, some momentum going into next season, and really kind of move forward with their club. And some of them are having good tournaments so far, which is nice to see. Ultimately, though, there just is not very much to take away from this game. The U.S. did what the U.S. was supposed to. Going to top the group. I wasn't worried about that draw against Jamaica. I am still not worried about that draw against Jamaica. And the final thing I will reiterate is what I said after that draw with Jamaica, which is if you want to criticize BJ Callahan's lineups, you have to wait until the quarterfinals. Nothing in these two games should impact what he is thinking. To me, there were lessons learned in that Jamaica game. Mihailovic should have been starting. Zendejas and Senora should not have been. Cade Cowell, also really good in this game. He's making a case to start. Obviously, you got Jordan Morris injured right now. But and Brandon Vasquez comes on, scores another goal. You didn't need the last two games to know that these were the guys that should have been starting. To me, they showed enough in that 30, 35, 40 minutes they got against Jamaica when they completely turned the game around that should be your attacking group going forward. I don't go off of that, change my mind about that, because Jesus Ferreira scored 2 hat tricks. If you were a Ferreira guy before coming out of that Jamaica game, then fine. That's totally valid. It's not like Brandon Vasquez has done something that he absolutely has to be starting. But if you were a Vasquez guy, you should still be a Vasquez guy. If you're a Ferreira guy, you should still be a Ferreira. Or, a Vasquez person, you should be a Vasquez person. If you're a Ferreira person, you should still be a Ferreira person. There's no need to go rethinking anything based off these two games. I saw what I needed to see against Jamaica. I know who I want starting. And then, if those players aren't starting and the U.S. struggles, then you can start asking questions about BJ Callahan's lineup selection. There's just no point complaining about guys not getting all of these minutes or not getting starts in the group stage. This is where you rotate the squad and give everybody an opportunity, because you're gonna take care of business. And if you don't, it's not because you didn't have the right players on the field, because everybody should be able to get the job done, and they did. And so, top the group, exactly where the U.S. is supposed to be, onto the knockout stage of the Gold Cup. That is all for this edition of the Weekend Roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.